And yes, we are live now. So, hey folks, this is me, Vishwas Nair. I'm the host of this podcast. Pioneer Project started out with a notion of 0 to 1. That means I need to understand like what it takes to build something from scratch. And I think gaming industry was untouched by me. Like I've never thought or learned about the gaming industry. While I was researching on this podcast, indie gaming technology is very unique. So basically, real money gaming is everywhere, but Indian technological requirements are different. The way that people drive these kind of an efforts is completely different. And who other than Bazi Games, man? Like Bazi Games has been doing phenomenal in terms of like their tech practices, the scale in which they tackle the problem statements every single day. And I'm with Siddharth, who's going to not just talk about Bazi Games. It's also about his engineering efforts that goes behind, as well as the engineering practices that he has aligned himself with throughout a course of time. Let it be 10 years of engineering practices, or else just a specific technological implementation for a gaming technology is very different. So let's demystify that. Let's understand how this technology is going to impact Indian economy, also the way in which the gaming ecosystem is coming. So thank you so much, Siddharth, for being on the show. It means a lot.
Thank you, Shwas. Thank you for having me on this podcast.
Sure, then let's start with our first question. I think Bazi Games has been that one pioneer in the way in which we think RMG, right? Real money gaming, or else even if we consider like where did this poker trend start? It's basically Bazi Games which came out. So let's talk about it. It's basically culturally captivating, right? If we focus on just Bazi Games, also it's mind-blowingly culturally fitting in terms of our Indian audience. So let's talk about the Indian mobile gaming market is experiencing massive explosion. That means there is an explosive growth. How is your engineering team approaching the scalability to ensure the platform can handle such kind of an influx users who are coming inside the platform? As well as like, let's talk about like, the value prop, the compliance which goes behind it without compromising the performance. Today you lose performance, you lose customers, and your growth team comes and says, hey man, you know what, it's not working out, we need to perform well. So how is your team tackling all these problem statement?
Cool. So basically, if you talk about the gaming industry in totality, right, and then we'll eventually come down to Bazi Games and our individual working units and Poker Bazi for that matter, which is a niche poker platform. So if I specifically talk about the gaming industry for now, so probably you must have seen that over the last 1 decade, the gaming industry in India has gone to a different level altogether. I mean, the rise and the boom of the industry, specifically after COVID, when there's a lot of influx of users coming onto the system and they're playing games 24/7 on their mobile phones. All of us were at home, didn't have much to do. So that is where that rise and that peak came. And after that, since then, we have seen a huge influx in terms of traffic, in terms of users, and whatnot. So I happened to join Bazi when the COVID started. So the COVID started somewhere in March 20, and the first wave that came, and I joined Bazi in May 20. So my timing with the Bazi and COVID was almost back to back. I am literally thankful that I got the opportunity to join Bazi at that time because that is when the boom, the peak started. But before that, also Bazi was doing really great. But when I talk about the influx in the number of users, the number of that entire traffic altogether, it started coming in after 2020 when COVID started. So I remember when I joined the team, we were what hardly 30 odd people in the tech team. Now we have a tech team of close to 120 odd people. So we have gone 4x in the last 4 years. Now you can imagine that the tech strength has gone to 4x. So accordingly, the number of users that we have on the platform, I don't have to talk about it. It's all there in the news. It's all there in the market. Everyone knows that Bazi has reached to a new height altogether. If we talk about specifically in terms of the technical capability of our engineering team, so there's a lot that has gone through parallelly with in terms of the gaming influx as well as the tech influx that we have done, right? Because even doesn't matter which industry you work in today, every industry need to have a very strong tech background, right? You are a fintech company, you are a gaming company, you are BFSI, you are a multinational, you are a budding startup, whatever you are, you need to have a very strong tech base, a very strong core tech team who can take you to that level where everyone plans to go. Correct. I believe a lot has come into this entire industry and specifically the technical domain when we talk about. So you spoke about the influx and spoke about the culture, right? Because of that entire cultural influx, a lot of users started coming in. A lot of users started playing market, specifically in the Indian industry. So now, if I talk about specifically how did we grow, how did we manage all of that? So let's go a little deep dive into the technical part of it. I'll say that the very strong contribution in this case has been with the cloud infrastructure, right? So I've been working in the industry for over 12 years now, and I've worked in a setup wherein just to increase the RAM of a particular server, you had to do a lot of manual work behind that, right? I've seen those server racks, I've seen those huge data centers, and I've seen all of that. So from there to where we have come now, wherein just to spin up a new service and you have to deploy a new service just within a click of a button, you can do all of that. So with cloud enabling you and giving you that flexibility, that adaptability of everything, which whatever you want to deploy, whatever what you want to incorporate, it's a new language, it's a new service, it's a new tool. The seamlessness, the adaptability has been very good in terms of the cloud infrastructure. So we primarily use AWS then, but we also have a flavor of Google Cloud, DigitalOcean at Bazi. So it gives us a mix of deciding and where do we have to run our workload. Where primarily almost 80-85% is being on AWS, and the remaining chunk is on other clouds. So that cloud adaptability has been very helpful. Now, if you talk about in terms of the technical expertise that we have brought in internally, so our entire tech team has revamped the entire architecture. So there was a blog that we published in 2021 wherein we spoke about how Pokerbazi changed its entire approach from monolithic to a microservice architecture, because back then we were just running the entire system in a very monolithic manner. We had applications, but those were tightly coupled singleton databases, EC2 machines where the entire workload was running. But from there, where we are now, it's completely microservice based. All the services are being deployed in a separate setup. We are using Kubernetes clusters, Fargate clusters. There's still a touch of EC2 instances running here and there with some of our workloads, because it becomes difficult to move your legacy setup into a new infrastructure altogether. You take time, you weigh the odds, and then you do that. But almost 90% of our infrastructure is serverless now. It's all into containers, and with tools like Kubernetes coming into the picture, there are so many new observability tools that have come in. So things have become, I mean, what I see in my experiences in the last 1 decade, wherein everything had to be done manually or by using scripts, now everything has been automated, either by scripts or by new tools. Now you go to the market, for every single thing you'll get 10 different vendors who will pitch you 10 very good tools, and it becomes difficult for you to choose which one do you want to use for your particular task, right? So I keep on going to these conferences every now and then, and in every conference you'll find 5 different vendors pitching and selling the same thing, the service which is doing the same work, but you have to decide which one you're going to choose if you want to go to a managed option or a vendor tie-up option. And on the other hand, your cloud services will keep on adding those native services so that you don't have to look out for any vendor option, because they would not want that you use any single service from a vendor. They'll bring it in-house within the tool itself. So yeah, I mean, microservices, then there is cloud. Like I mentioned about observability, there is a lot that have been done in the observability platform. So we also integrated with Datadog last year to enhance our observability setup. So we are using Datadog. Then there's a lot of in-house tools. There's ELK, Prometheus, Grafana, Percona, whatnot, and all of this entire tech stack is just purely to help us with respect to the observability and the monitoring part. So that gives us a very core insight as to at any given point of time, what is the number that we are seeing, what is the entire CPU stack that is going on for our clusters, how are the nodes running, what is the health of our pods. If any service goes down every now, if anytime at any given point of time, we have automated systems to fix that. We have systems to let us know that there has been an issue at a particular service so that we can minimize the outage and fix that immediately. So yeah, that is there. Then on the database side, we have done a lot of changes. I mean, I remember back in 2020, we were using a EC2 instance to run our production workload, and from there now we have come to a lot of managed services. So we are using NoSQL, SQL, all parts of that, different databases, but it's all automated. The infra is automated in terms of database deployments also. So yeah, I mean, pretty much everything that has been invested, that has been worked upon by the tech team over here at Bazi, it's mostly, I would say, a mix of cloud native services, a lot of open source tools for that matter, and yeah, definitely a lot of hard work done by our tech developers and the DevOps guys and everyone in the tech team for that matter. Our QA engineers, I mean, they are very proactive in terms of finding even a single bug before it gets shipped into a pre-prod environment for that matter. So we make sure that we fix everything in QA so that our pre-prod builds are as good as moving them into production. So yep, this
Got
is
it.
how basically the setup goes.
Sure, I think it's a lot of hard work, man. It's basically the essence of gaming industry, and the gaming ecosystem is like it's booming, like it's massive today. I still remember playing GTA 5 on my 500 MB RAM wala computer. GTA, not GTA 5, not GTA 5, it's GTA
GTA.
San Andreas or something like that. It used to be something good, it was like a pirated version of the game. So we never used to buy the CDs or something like that. But, it was always a pleasure for us to just go a next step in that gaming, right? If we just move a next step ahead, that's a win for us. But today, there are such big competitions coming up. Like Valorant has its own tournament, which is viewed by 70 million people. That's a huge scale. And Riot Games basically just goes tantrumized every time. Like, yeah, if we just mess up something, probably we are going to lose our belief system. So that's the amount of work that goes behind. So let's talk about esport ecosystem beyond just the professional leagues, right? Today RMG is beyond it. RMG is fine. We are experiencing a lot of traction there, but league is starting out. So let's talk about beyond the professional league. How can we create a sustainable esport environment that caters to the vast pool of casual as well as the recreational mobile gamers in India? And how is the recreational gaming industry making an impact? I think Bazi games also has different flavors, not just poker Bazi. It has different flavors of games and so many things. Let's talk about it.
So you remember all of us used to play Ludo back then in our childhood, Snakes and
Yes.
Ladders, checkers, a lot of these games, and I never thought that after like 15, 20, 25 years we'll be sitting at a stage where we can actually play these games in real time with multiplayer audience, and we can use it in a RMG sector, right? That is where the real money gaming actually has came up to this level. Because now if you see, I mean, when you talk about recreational gaming side, so when COVID came, it was not just about these RMG sector that got the boom. I mean, you talk about Candy Crush for that matter. You go into the Delhi metro, and every other single other person is playing Candy Crush on their mobile phone, right? Even the auto wala, rickshaw wala, they are playing Candy Crush when they are standing in the traffic light. I've seen that myself. Red light pe khade and they're playing Candy Crush in the meanwhile. Now that has changed to switching on to OTT and watching something on the OTT platform. But yeah, so that was also one thing which got on a different boom altogether. Um, if you specifically talk about recreating and recreational gaming and the impact on it, so I would say that the entire recreational gaming system along with the real money gaming has been a very it has a very significant impact all over, I would say, not just the gaming industry but in totality with the entire horizon of aspects also. I mean, you see there is a lot of revenue generation when you talk about RMG, right? In this particular RMG, if you see, there's a lot of job creation. So, we need developers, UI designers, graphic designers, and the same goes for the recreational games also, right? If someone is creating games online, we play GTA, we all have played Counter Strike and whatnot. I mean, the list is endless, correct? You go to EA Sports, we used to play that cricket by EA Sports, and there's FIFA. I mean, everyone is mad about FIFA when people used to play FIFA, right? So there's a lot of job creation that has happened because of that. Thanks to that, right? People are developing those games and going behind how can you run those games so that you don't get any lag. A lot of back end development comes into the picture, a lot of network engineering comes into the picture, just so that you can play multiplayer. Otherwise, running it from a single player to a multiplayer gaming does invite a lot of collaboration from multiple technical fields to make that happen, to run that properly. So that is there. A lot of technical advancements, I would say. So you remember, recently Prime Minister Modi invited a lot of these gaming influencers, and these guys spoke about VR, virtual reality, and I think Prime Minister also tried that virtual reality feature, and he played a game also. So now you see the impact of it. Imagine the prime minister of the country is inviting these influencers, these 6, 7 influencers who have millions of players and millions of users following them on social media channels. So the impact is about that. Uh, people love to play those games. People get to learn a lot from them. A lot of job creation is happening, and the influencers are also influencing in a positive manner. That hey, if you want to play it for your recreational time, do it that way. If you really want to play it in a sector wherein you want to play it in a RMG sector, do it that way. It's your choice, right? You want to invest in some money and you want to play a game, use your skills, beat your competitor and win something out of it. That's great. So in totality, if you see, both goes hand in hand, right? You get to meet a lot of people, you create a cultural community, you create a gaming community, right? You go to Facebook, there are so many fan pages and there's so many communities of players talking to each other. There's a Counter Strike group, there's a FIFA lover group, there is a Counter Strike is not good group. So there's a lot of cultural bonding that happens between the players and the audience in that manner. So that brings in a lot of positive impact in terms of getting behind those aspects and meeting new people, understanding that, right? A lot of entertainment is there in terms of people are just actually I have seen people just sitting and watching other people playing Counter Strike,
Yes.
right? Because they
Yes.
love love to see that. I don't want to play, I'm not good at it, but I want to see how are you playing, and if you're a good player, I would literally want to be there and see your entire game, right? People are watching FIFA, how two people are competing FIFA, things like that. So it's a very big boost for entertainment also. So overall, in totality, I would say that not just the recreational gaming. I mean, obviously that was there since the inception when mobile games started coming onto the actual platform. But from there, when the RNG sector came in, and there's a boom that came in the RNG sector. So both these sectors, I would say, hand in hand, clubbed together, are actually they're bringing a very positive impact in the society.
True. I think the biggest challenge in gaming ecosystem is, I feel, basically, like, we digitize the experience.
Yeah.
Like Ludo was supposed to be played using a dice, using a board, and I still remember we used to buy every birthday. There used to be, like, when we were young, it was the only gift that we used to get. Either it was a chessboard or else a Ludo. I'm like, Snake or Ladder. That's also there. Even today Snake and Ladder is digitized to an extent that people just play it on the phone, and people just invite their own peers to make sure that they come. And of course, there's a massive macroeconomy that can be created, right? The ads are getting played parallelly onto the platform. There's a lot of things happening. So, let's talk about some amount of experience, right? Of course, you talked about how you entered Bazi games during the pandemic. That's absolutely fine. But let's talk about what is unique about this industry. There are some factors that you feel like, what, this is something that is beyond what other industries can offer, or else it can be as good as, this is as critical as the other industry as well, or else your learnings that you had from past 4 years, right? Let's talk about it. Let's cherish the fact that there is a gaming industry which is much bigger and it's getting better every single day.
Before I answer that, I would like to tell you that, so you spoke about snakes and adders, right? So recently, a couple of months back, on one of our verticals, Cardbazi, we launched Power Ladders, which is basically a version of Snakes and Ladder, and it is the world's first asynchronous Snakes and Ladder game, which is for RMG sector. So we built that and we shipped it a couple of months back only. We have got great response for it. So when you spoke about it, I could relate to it that Snakes and Adder used to be about a dice and a board, right? And now you see you're playing that on a mobile phone with multiple players, and there are tournaments that which we run for Power Ladders basically. and you're running and competing with players and going next step. For every stage, your the snake pattern is changing and the ladder patterns are changing. So you see there's so much optimization that some we have thought behind it, and we have brought it to the user. So instead of just playing on one board where you are stuck with the same configuration, you can get different configurations with different set of users. What dice do you want to use, etc., etc. So it becomes actually, that is why it's so engaging. And this is where I want to start my answer, is that because of this thing, I believe that gaming industry is actually one of the most coolest, and somewhere where you can experiment a lot. And the best part is, whatever you experiment, you get to see and visualize it hands on immediately, because you deploy, you run a game, and you see it that it's there in front of you. So my experience before I joined Bazi in 2020 has been completely into fintech. I was a core fintech guy. I've worked with clients like Morgan Stanley, JP Morgan, Jeffries, Barclays. So my that experience was, purely about BFSI domain, fintech domain, and this is that. This is coming. You don't get to do change much a lot. For even for a single deployment, you create a ticket on ServiceNow, which goes to a change approval board, and through that process, you'll do one release in a month after taking a downtime. So from that background, when I joined Bazi in 2020, honestly, for me also it was a little challenging, because the corporate culture that I came from was very different as compared to what I saw here in Bazi. And the first year in 2020 was work from home because of COVID. We started going to office in 2021, but then again second wave came, then work from home. So technically, I would say in 2021, after the second wave was over, that is when we started going to office. Correct. And but if you ask me, the very first day when I joined in 2020, I was asked to explore the app. I downloaded PokerBazi for the very first time, and I was going through the app and I was experiencing the platform and how do you play a game and things like that. From there till today, honestly speaking, it's the same app which has gone through a multiple rejects hundreds of times in the last 4 years. But every time I open the app, I see, I mean, I get fascinated with the amount of hard work that has been put behind it, to see a platform which is so smooth to give you so many options of not just playing. So you can watch videos, you can play for free, you can play practice games, etc., etc. And I feel that whatever I have done in my past, in my experience, I could never see that, because it could be either a website being deployed or some large migrations of cloud happening, or a new software being developed which is being used internally by the clients. Correct. But when I joined Bazi, I could see that a single git push that we did, and when it was deployed to a server, you could see that change in front of you, right? A single avatar change that we might have done when we push our build finally, you can see that on the app immediately. So that is one aspect which I personally feel is very interesting for me, because you get to see your work done immediately. Although it has some negative impacts, although something fails, that also gets impacted, and you get to know immediately that we have to roll back or fix it. But yeah, I mean, being into a gaming industry at this point of time, doesn't matter what is your role. I mean, we have QA engineers, we have devs, we have TPMs, we have web designers, UI designers, we have project managers, we have DevOps engineers, SRE guys. I mean, I'm the AVP at Bazi. We have AVPs and everyone. In fact, from our CTO to the junior most member of the team, right, in the tech team of 120 odd people, everyone every day is as excited to work at PokerBazi, or for that matter, Cardbazi and Sportsbazi, in every vertical, right? Um, I'll give you an example. It's a very funny anecdote that I will share. So it was, I think, in 2021, or 2021. It was Rakhi on that day, August ka time tha. So it was a holiday, and but in COVID, it has always been that even if it is a holiday, kuch na kuch something will happen, and you will eventually have to open your laptop at least for once. Even if you don't have to work, you'll have to open your laptop. I remember that date was Rakhi, and everyone, my sister was at home, and we all were celebrating Rakhi. And I got a call from one of my juniors, said that please come online. I'm stuck in an issue, and then I went online and I opened the laptop, and it took me. I was on the call for the next 8 hours from that moment. I was in my room. I was on the call on the laptop for the next 8 hours. My sister was waiting for me outside. I was like, please come here, do whatever you want to do. You tie the raki, complete the rituals and the formalities. I can't move from it. Now when I recall those moments, right now when I see that, working in a live production environment, deploying your code, making changes, doing so many changes in terms of the front end and back end and whatnot, it actually gives you that excitement. It actually gives you that rush, that blood rush, that you're doing something in production, fixing something in production. Because back then, before that, my experience was that even if there was an issue, you'll take hours to fix that, and there will be some tickets that will be raised. You need approvals to deploy the fix and whatnot. But over here at Bazi, I saw that the freeness that you get, that you have all the power in your hand. Make sure that you execute it in the right way. So now when we take interviews and when someone asks me that, I ask them specifically, why do you want to join Bazi? And there have been some instances when people have asked me that, why do you think Bazi is a good option? Because in today's world, everyone has multiple offers when they're looking out, right? Nobody is satisfied with one single offer. So when I get these questions, I can go on for hours. And then eventually I have to take a time check that, okay, I need to stop because of the time check. But yeah, because I can go on for, and not just for Bazi, I'm sure with other gaming industry, I mean, other verticals in and other applications in the gaming industry, other companies also. It is actually very interesting for the freshers also. We hired a lot of freshers recently, right? So now their experience has been also the same as to what when you hire a senior person or a mid-level person, because they come and then they see the app, they see the environment, they see how we are working, the best of the tech stack that you can use, the best of the tools that you can use, the flexibility of whatever you want to implement. All of that, particularly if you ask me, I'm sure this could be an open debate that, in today's world, fintech companies are also doing great. And someone will say that, hey, you come and join Cred or Grow and you love it, or you go to Zomato or Swiggy and you love it. I'm sure they must be loving it, but I'm loving it at here at Bazi. I mean, this is my 5th year running. Honestly, when I joined in 2020, I didn't think that I would stay here for so long. But this is my 5th year now, and trust me, I'm really very happy. It has been a good journey so far. I joined in as a solution architect. I am AVP of engineering now. Our team was 30 odd people. We are 120 odd people now. Our user base has gone 10x. Our revenues have gone good. So overall, in totality, I think the best time for someone to get into the gaming industry right now.
True, true. I think the biggest challenge that anybody can face in the production downtime is पॉट नहीं चल रहा है भाई बस इतना ही I think it's not just that, sometimes even if your network somewhere somebody pulls out something, some code is pushed somewhere, you need to debug it. It's all networking. Behind the scenes, there is a lot of things happening. Oh
True,
my
true.
god, that's how it is. That's how even if anybody thinks about it today. Right efforts, right approach, right technology. That's it. You don't have to do much. All right. I think the behind the scenes was much effective, right? Just tie me the Raki, and I think that is pretty awesome. So let's talk about mobile gaming innovations. You talked about VR technology, where Mr. Narendra Modi also experienced. He was also experimenting out with that experience that he can get with the VR. But mobile gaming technology is beyond it. I've seen some mobiles which is as good as my MacBook Pro. I'm like, it costs a lot, by the way, but it's as good as a MacBook Pro. I was like, what? And to be very frank with you, the camera is much brighter and much, what do you call, much fancier than what you can look through your eyes. Even though
True,
I have
true.
a very clear vision after even I wear my spectacles, and I was like, it looks better than what I can see through my eyes. The same thing, and I'm
True.
like, it's
Actually,
it's it's great. It's great that
great.
we
It's
are
actually
going to.
exciting.
Yeah, it's very exciting. So let's talk about it. Mobile gaming is thriving to innovation, right? It just thrives. Like, I still remember Snapdragon was always pushing their boundaries in terms of the number of transistors. But boom, one year they were tripling down on the number of transistors that they put in their micros processors, and it's great. But it's a crucial to maintain a secure environment for players, right? Mobile hacking has been much easier today. Like, people have those practices right now, and they can hack into any system right away today. How does your teams strike a balance between ensuring the introduction of the new features doesn't compromise on the user data and the security? Because, of course, it's a PII data. There's a lot and lot of, what do you call that, complexities that they have to deal with. So, how does your team strike a balance between evolution or the innovation that goes behind and the security that is happening? Plus, let's talk about like uh, the compliance and the importance that is there today in the gaming industry itself. Like every industry has their own compliance that is coming. Like HIPAA compliance is a must if you're a healthcare SaaS or else even a healthcare product. But like, how is it important today?
Correct. So, I read somewhere that security is a myth. Then someone said that cloud security is a myth. Then the next person said that infrastructure security is a myth. So, why am I saying this is because when you talk about securing a platform, securing a particular hardware, securing your software, it is something which is never ending, which will start from the bottommost level, from day zero. And this is something which you have to always ensure that you are trying and you make sure that you are one step ahead in terms of getting down with bombarded with attacks or hackers and whatnot. Correct. Even though some people think that it is a myth, I personally believe that whatever you can do to the best of your expertise, to the best of that technical skill set that you have, you can definitely make sure that you don't leave any loophole so that someone else can break in. Correct. You can never say that I'm 100% secure, but you can always say that I have made sure that by whichever means I know someone can break in, I fix them. And with this, the first thing that starts it with a shift left approach. I mean, I recently went to one conference in Gurgaon a couple of months back, and we all were discussing about cloud security and infrastructure security only. And there was this common discussion which was happening about, shift left or shift right, where to start from. Correct. And the very common notion and a common agenda that was set in that conversation was it is very important that you shift left first. You have that security mindset from the inception of the first line of code that you write, because that is from where if you if you leave any loophole, there will always be multiple loopholes that will be incorporated in the entire system. So we at Bazi, we always make sure that when a developer is writing a line of code on his or her ID on a particular system, on a particular laptop, on a particular network, we try and make sure that every entry and exit point is secure in terms of your network, in terms of your infrastructure, your cloud, your ID, what code are you writing, your code vulnerabilities, your CVEs, scannings, VAPDs, whatnot. That is where we focus from the very beginning, where there's a word called 0 day security, 0 day downtime, and that is where that 0 day comes into the picture for us, that from the day zero of a feature that is supposed to go live, and to make sure that it doesn't break anything from a security perspective of the existing application, the inception of that feature from a developer's machine has to be made secure so that the entire circle is secure. Cool. So this is where actually that is what the mindset that we work on, from where we start. And then from there itself, there are multiple things that you yourself must be aware of. There are code reviews that happen. There are CVs that we look out for. We run security scans. We run security checks on the code and the pipelines. So if there is a pipeline which is running and we find anything in the pipeline, it breaks then and there itself. You have to fix that pipeline, retest it, re-evaluate it, get it approved, and then we deploy it. Then when you push the code to a particular server or a particular cloud serverless infrastructure, how are you pushing that code, on which infrastructure is it going, the cloud protocols, the deployment protocols we for work about. A very interesting and important thing is encryption, because this data is going here and there. I mean, you can never track the flexibility and the movement of the data. Correct. So you have to ensure that your data is encrypted at every place, even if it is at rest, where you are storing it in a S3 bucket for that matter, even if it is transiting to a different VPC or a network or a cloud account or a vendor deployment account, or even if you're shipping a bill to Apple Store or Google Play Store and whatnot. So that is where the entire journey of your code base of your particular artifact has to be secure. Then you talk about your, like I said, about the cloud infrastructure, the cloud compliances, compliance. We recently had the DPDP Act, which got passed in the bill, right? The DPDP bill is approved now. So we've already started working about it. I mean, we have so far for data protection bill, GDPR was used to be the, the Bible for everyone, that okay, if you're following the GDPR protocols, not just for the EU region, for India region also, that you should follow those such protocols. Good that now we have a DPTP Act of our own for our Indian region, so that we understand that from a data perspective, security perspective, privacy perspective, what measures are we following? Correct. You spoke about PII data, so that becomes very important. As a user, if I'm logging to a particular platform, if I'm letting you do my KYC, right? That is, so I am giving you a lot of personal information. If I'm doing transactions on your platform, I'm giving you a lot of personal information. So we as the organization have to make sure that every user data, from the moment the data uploads that particular whatever data it is, we need to make sure that from there onward till the time we keep that data for us, with us, for the user, we have to make sure that it is encrypted, it is properly secured, it is following the protocols, we are following the compliances in terms of auditing also. Because every now and then we keep on doing the audits, we make sure that the process through which how we, because there's a lot of vendor work that also comes into this picture, right? You're doing your KYCs, you have your payment gateways. Now at one point of time you might say that if, let's say, if there is a data breach for a particular user on due to which his personal details were breached, right? Now there are multiple parties involved over here. There's a payment gateway, then then we are storing that data from where the payment is initiated, then the bank is actually at the back end performing that operation of a credit or debit or whatever you call it, right? So every step you have to make sure that you are maintaining that compliance, you are following the right protocols, correct? So that also goes into the picture. uh, I feel particularly, it is about, and you mentioned it in the question itself, that is very important in balancing innovation with security, right? Whatever you ship, you have to make sure that obviously it doesn't break anything from the code level, but also from the security level, it becomes very important, right? We have close to I'm not sure about the number, but there are a good number of engineers who keep on doing testing on the code base every now and then. We have a separate team who plays on production environment, and they keep on performing multiple tests from the gameplay, from infra perspective, from security perspective, just to make sure that even if by chance if something has been missed from a particular loophole, we try to find out then and there itself by us only, so that tomorrow that day doesn't come when an outsider can use that information to trouble us. So there is a proactive approach that goes from the shift left approach, and then there is, we are always ready for a reactive approach also, just to make sure that it is our own people who find out if anything goes fishy. So this is how we balance it for.
Got it, got it. I think product plays an humongous role. Product management,
Yeah.
everything really makes a huge impact, because eventually what I've understood is if your product speaks to the customer, it's going to be very, very useful, and you don't have to worry about your marketing efforts, the sales efforts, or anything like that. So let's talk about data driven decision making, because fundamentally data is huge. Data is the new tofu, data is the new oil, man. Data is everything, like,
Yeah.
you name it, there is data that is getting generated. Today's live stream is creating data. Like, there is an analytics dashboard that is bombarded with so many of the matrices. I'm like, what's happening? Behind the scenes, I was just looking at the who is coming live, what's happening, how many people are live, who is there, what is there. I'm like, it's great. Today data is huge, data is fascinating, but it doesn't end there. You need to make product decisions using that, you need to make technology decisions using that. I think capacity planning is something that you also want to emphasize a lot about, and a lot of other pointers, right? Let's talk about data driven decision making. How important is it in your industry, and also how important is it when you're scaling the systems, or else, like you told Raki, there was a debugging session going on, but still, you plan ahead, but still sometimes it fails, but this failure can also be a success. That's how it is. That's how the data really plays a humongous role. Let's talk about data driven decision making.
See, if you're not consuming your data in the right manner, you are, I mean, you are missing out on a lot. And that data is then completely useless for you. For us it is very important, and I personally feel for everyone who are basically making decisions driven out of their data, it is very important to read that data thoroughly, to find out and to actually bring the best out of it in terms of what is the use case that you can drive out of it, what are the assumptions that you can drive out of it. Because if you, like you said, that you can see on the dashboard how many people are joining and how many people are there who are viewing live, etc., whatnot, right? It gives you a real-time analytics, it gives you a real-time information about this podcast when it is running live. Correct. Now imagine if you get this data after the podcast is over, it is of no use for you. Correct. You can't do anything about it then. It is now when the podcast is live, maybe you can do something to make sure that everyone is able to join, everyone is able to hear me properly or you properly see us properly, things like that. Correct. The same thing goes with us, because when a user is performing any activity on the platform, it is very important for us to understand through the user data what is the behavior of the user, what is the user wants to do on the platform. So, for example, at pokerbazi, I mean, we have different types of stakes. A user can play a poker table with 10 rupees also. A user can play a poker table with 1,000 rupees also. A user can play a tournament with 1 lakh buy-in also, and a user can play a tournament with 10 lakh buy-in also. I mean, hypothetically speaking, the numbers can be up and down, right? So this all comes from user driven data, user behavior data. You understand that the user always wants to make sure that I want to play small, win small, and I'm okay with that. So you would also always want that user to be happy and to be stable with that kind of setup, those stable, those similar users of the same mindset. Correct. Because in that matchmaking concept is very important in terms of real money, sorry, multiplayer games, because you always want to play with like-minded people. Let's say if both of us are playing poker, and now you say that, hey, so that my minimum bet has to be 100, and I am saying that, hey, Vishwas, my total pot that I want to play is of 100. So obviously both of us can't play on the same table. It doesn't make sense, because in the very first bet I'll be empty out of my pocket, and if you win then I'll go home. It doesn't make sense for me. So we have to ensure that if someone wants to play with a pot of 100 rupees only for today, he or she gets those players who have the same mindset of playing with a pot of 100 rupees only. Correct. And similarly, you get a player who wants to start with a bet of minimum 100 rupees. So there's a lot of decision making that comes in terms of how the user is playing, how much is the user spending, how much is the user trying to play with. You know, if the user is a little cautious in playing, if the user always go aggressive, we use that data. I mean, if you, I'm not sure if you have ever opened our app Pokerbazi, but when you open the game table, there are so many stats on that table itself that for a newbie, it is so overwhelming that the person will feel like, should I focus on the gameplay or should I read those stats altogether? Because we have embedded so many stats on the table that we want to make it easy for everyone to understand that, okay, this is how you should play your game. Because poker is a game of math, it's a game of skill. You have a deck of 52 cards, you have to analyze, visualize, do a lot of probability permutation combination in your mind, that okay, if I have two aces, let's say, and if there is one ace on the table, then maybe probably there's the possibility that my opponents have the fourth ace. Correct. Then you have to do a lot of juggling and mathematical calculation. Then how is your opponent playing against, how many times has he gone all in, how many times has the opponent folded. All this is data driven decisions, and we feed this data to the customers on the application, just to make sure that they take the right decision at the right time, because we don't want anyone to come and lose. We want everyone, obviously someone will lose and someone will win the game, that's how it works, but everyone should try their best, play their best, and then obviously in the end there will be always one winner. You can't I mean, you can't change that. Correct. So in that case, for it becomes very important to understand the user data. The user, I mean, if you want to make sure that the user keeps on playing the platform, you have to understand the user statistics that goes on for the retention criteria, user engagement criteria. So you come on Pokerbazi and you say that, hey, I don't want to put in money on the very first day. Why don't you give me some free games? Okay, you can play practice games for free. Play for how much time you want to play. Just learn the game, learn the basics, then come and play on the real table. You say that, hey, I just, like we spoke about, that people just want to see other people playing Counter Strike. So you can come on the platform and you can watch videos and see how other people are playing. You can we have embedded the YouTube videos on a app itself, so that you don't even have to open video YouTube separately. Watch it on the app itself, so that you get to learn what is going on. Recently we launched our own personal analytics dashboard, which is live on the app, which goes by Poker Shots. If you open that dashboard, you'll feel like you're in a, that dashboard itself is like your best bet, your losing bet, your favorite player, your unfavorite player, the one person you should play with, you have lost to the multiple times, you have won against the multiple times, which so the stats are at such a humongous level that if you start reading those stats, it will help you analyze your game. How many times you've got a bad bet, have how many times have you been unlucky in terms of a game. So in this, the example that I gave, that fourth ace, had that not been in the with any other player, I had the best probability to win with three aces, right? And imagine there could be a bad bet where someone else got four kings in a hand in totality, right? So that is where those bad bets happen. So we have embedded everything in the game, and all of that is purely data driven, because we cannot visualize or analyze anything. The game is completely automated. It throws in the cards automatically. We have a certified RNG, a real number generator, which is certified by Gaming Lab Authority, which is the world's best authentication that you can for a gaming organization, for a gaming library, right? So we don't know anything, but with the user stats is what we bring out the data out of it. So the best you read the data, the best you can serve the customer, the user, and then they can visualize and use the data to help themselves grow. You also spoke about, how do you scale up in terms of capacity planning, like you spoke about, right? I remember in 2021, in sports bazi, when IPL was about to start, the anticipation in terms of the number of users who would play on the very first IPL game, I think we got about 5x the times of players on the very first day itself. Correct. So all those things are, sometimes it happens all of a sudden. Honestly, it is not that you can predict it every time. Sometimes it is like you have not predicted that the traffic would come in a bulk, but actually the traffic comes in a bulk situation. But most of the time now, with the insights that we have, our operations team, our marketing team, they help us a lot in visualizing and planning all of that. So we recently finished NPS, National Poker Series. We did the award show for that, and we called Yuvraj Singh as the chief guest for it. It is the biggest poker tournament in India, which is hosted by Bazi Games, Poker Bazi, which goes by National Poker Series. And now in October, we are doing GOAT, Greatest of All tournament. That is the second best poker tournament in the industry that we do. And these tournaments that I'm talking about, they have a prize pool of 50 CR, 80 CR, 70 CR. That is what the
What?
prize pool is. Yes. And
50 CR?
the entire prize pool of the
My
tournament is
God.
50 CR. And the winners of the first, second, third places are getting amount in crores. The winning amount is in CRs. You can imagine that. So
I think,
and
yeah.
yeah, so now imagine to manage that workload, to handle the infrastructure and to handle the code base at that workload, it becomes very critical for us to make sure NPS runs on for almost 25-30 days, and that entire month, likewise for IPL, for sports bazi, that entire duration of IPL, and currently the World Cup is running, right? So we are already prepping up for tomorrow when the final is with India and South Africa. At that duration, the instant workload, the instant bulk traffic that comes, we have already come on to the stage wherein everything is automated, everything is self provisioned, but we still make sure that we are there on the system just to cover up if anything fails, right? So that's what I said. You're always prepared. You can prepare for the best, but there's still a very small leverage of something that odd can happen in the system, and you have to be prepared for that. But yeah, I mean, thanks to the data insights that our analytics team bring into the picture, because reading raw data is of no use. You cannot make anything out of it. The visualization that comes out of that raw data is what actually shows you the correct picture. So that visualization of the data, how do you prepare using that data so that you make sure that next time the same thing doesn't happen? That is what the journey is, and I believe we have been very focused in terms of understanding and leveraging the user data. And there's a lot of revenue analytics that we do, user analytics that we do. There is a lot of what do we say? There are feedback loops that we do, right? We run a lot of engagement channels in just to understand those things. We recently did a brand campaign with Shahid Kapoor. Then Bogarbazi was a channel, also a partner with Shark Tank India also. And apart from that, also we run a lot of brand campaigns and all those campaigns. And every time our marketing team goes on to run a campaign, they inform us a couple of weeks in advance that be prepared for a good traffic, for a good bulk load that will come in. And we are always happy to make, because for us it is good that more traffic is coming, more user is coming. So we'll prep. So my engineers in my DevOps team, they are always eager that why don't we have more traffic, let's increase the traffic, we want to see how the scale goes now, how do we manage that scale at runtime. And we often talk about experiences from how Hotstar is running that streaming for the World Cup and for IPL. I think for one of the IPL matches they had a live streaming for 5 CR people, 5 CR in unique 5 CR people, right? So those things are what excites us, and that is where we feel that our tech stack is also good enough to reach that level, and we'll take it to that level. And thanks to the data is why we can achieve a lot of things in that case.
True. I think that's true. I think data speaks today and data helps you scale. There is a huge demand that is created because of it. I think thank you so much for this amazing show. I think it was such a detailed explanation that people just told me, man, I don't have any questions. That's what they told me. And I was like, okay, fine, folks, reach out to him personally. There's a lot that you can learn from me. A very humble leader. Like I'll be very frank with you. I reached out to him and he accepted the fact that, there's a podcast. Let me just go back and let me just do it Vishwas Narayan. Simple as that. So that's how simple it is to reach out to him. But also, very technically sound person. In terms of like, you ask him about anything, he will obviously answer you like, yeah, that this is how I want to answer this question. So I think amazing guest, amazing engineering leader that I invited on a podcast today. Thank you so much, Siddharth, sir, for being on the show. Means a lot. Enlightening us in terms of the gaming aspect, the gaming technology as well. I think it's beyond it. Gaming is going to boom. RMG is going to be in a boom. So there is going to be a lot of demand that is there. Probably 2 years down the line, probably you might be having a new tech stack, a new journey that you have to share. Probably I'll just invite you again and we'll just talk about it. Thank you so
I
much,
think
sir, for
I
doing this
think
podcast.
with how the tech stacks are advancing in these days, we might have to do it after 6 months also.
Yep.
We don't even have to wait for a couple of years with the new tech stack coming. Every new day, there's something new which is coming out, right? A new tool, a new language, a new framework, you name it, they have it. And you always keep on running that loop. Okay, upgrade, 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 right? You upgrade your skill set, you upgrade your tech stack. So, I mean, we can do it in after 6 months also. But yeah, thank you so much for having me on this podcast. I mean, it's a great experience for me. I saw your other podcast and I was like, okay, this is something definitely I would want to be at.
Thank
I
you
had a
so much.
great time. Thank you for all the questions. I hope I've answered all your questions in terms of what the audience might have wanted to expect and hear from me. As you said, I'm easily reachable on LinkedIn. Please drop me a text and I'm happy to get on a call, help you, mentor you, guide you, teach you, whatever you want to do. And yep, that is it.
I
Thank you
think
so much.
yes, I think founders will be much more easy. I know I have some gaming founders who are there in the startup hustle WhatsApp group that we have right now, but like they were bombarded with respect to, yeah, I want to understand how Bazi scales. Like, let me just imagine, like, not very close to what Bazi Games is building, but they have a different persona about gaming. But they wanted to learn more about it. Thank you so much for saying such great insight. Means a lot. Thank you so much, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, then, folks, see you soon with a new guest, new podcast, a new topic, probably, and a new episode full of energy